Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on analytical insights. My name is Emily. I'm part of the training and documentation team here at BGL, and we'll be guiding you with this feature in helping you dive deeper into your own database. So the purpose of today's webinar is to provide an overview of the Analytical Insights feature in Simple Fund 360, demonstrating the functionality of it, and to provide some insight on how you can use it to your advantage. As a disclaimer, BGL does not provide accounting or taxation advice. We're here mainly to hopefully enable you to use the software better and more effectively. So what is Analytical Insights? Well, best way to describe it is that it's a feature that gives you an overview of your SMSFs and non-SMSFs that you manage. So you'll find the functionality. It is the same across Simple Fund and Simple Invest 360. So you will have access to it if you have the two products. And so the team here at BGL, we've really drilled down the key bottlenecks that many of our users are facing, where you might be filtering through endless reports, trying to find key information across your client database. And for many of us, those hours can be very costly in terms of where it could be best utilized elsewhere. And so with that, we've provided the ability to search among all entities globally, as well as drilling down entity-specific information. And that is done through preset filters, providing real-time live data, which you can access at any time to help you and your clients in the process of decision-making. And at BGL, we really value the ability to go beyond the simple data entry. And that's essentially why we've designed this feature. It's an incredibly powerful tool where you can pinpoint problem areas and identify areas of opportunity. So definitely a hidden gem that many of us aren't aware of. So let's have a look at what this is all about. So I'm going to jump right into the software. And what we first need to do is to select an entity. And once selected, head to the top of the software and select the X icon, which is our Analytical Insights feature. So from here, you're prompted with 3 tabs: Account View, Entity, and Transaction. And I'll demonstrate these 3 tabs as we go along. So starting first with Account View, here you'll find what looks like a live trial balance, where you can find all of the accounts that were posted to within the current financial year. Of course, I have that flexibility to adjust the transaction date to display accounts within a different period as well. And from the screen, you can compare the current year balance against the last year balance. And what's great about this feature is that it's more than just reporting. So you have that ability to reconcile from the same dashboard. As an example, selecting any one of these accounts will display the corresponding sub-accounts. And by selecting a sub-account, I can find all of the transactions that were posted to this account. A handy tip is the blue link, which you'll find beside each transaction. And clicking on a link, it will take you straight to the transaction itself. So just when it loads up, there we are. So here is where you can make any relevant changes or look at the transaction in more detail. So heading back to Account View, through the screen alone, you can adjust how the data is presented to you, where you can order the data based on the columns selected in ascending or descending format. You can toggle on or off the option to filter. And also you can adjust the columns displayed within the single screen. So selecting this icon, you'll find a number of hidden columns. And these essentially reflect the More Details panel when entering in a transaction. And to display the data on your screen, simply click and drag a column to fixed or scrolling. And the difference between the two is similar to an Excel spreadsheet, where fixed columns will be locked to the screen as you scroll across the data within the scrolling columns. And then finally, with Account View, you can download all of that data from an account to an actual Excel CSV file. And you can do that by clicking Download Excel. So this can definitely help in the process of reconciling. So let's move on to our Entity tab. So now I would describe this tab as a helicopter view across your entire database, where you can drive compliance, planning, and gather real-time insights for all of your entities. Now on the left-hand side, we have a number of different filters, and selecting any number of these filters will narrow down the relevant entities that have been affected. There are multiple ways you can use the screen depending on your scenario or the type of clients that you manage. And what I'll do today is I'll demonstrate a few examples on how you can use the screen practically. So I have a few examples here, and the first one is opportunities surrounding downsizer contributions. So you might be aware that presently members 65 years or older may be eligible to make a downsizer contribution into your SMSF. And so in this scenario, a good way to filter your database would be utilizing the age filter. So I'm just going to look around, and on the left-hand side, I'll find the filter member age as of today. I can then select 65 to 74. But knowing that there is no maximum age limit with downsizer contributions, what I can then do is navigate to the top of the screen to select the filter and click to edit. So this allows me to make any changes as required. And in this scenario, I'm going to edit the age range from 65 years and tick the checkbox for unlimited. So selecting apply will filter those entities with members of ages 65 and over. And what's great about the screen is that it gives you a snapshot of your funds, where you can select the downward arrow besides any fund, and it'll give you more information. So you can find entity details, pension accounts, or fund relationships, as well as pension accounts and contribution information. And looking at this fund alone, I can see we have 2 members that are above the age of 65 and are eligible amongst other criteria to make a downsizer contribution. Now to remove a filter, all you'll need to do is head to the filter itself and select the X icon. Now, users are also able to select multiple filters at the one go. An example we can use in this case would be the carry forward rules regarding concessional contributions, where members who have a total super balance of less than 500K at the end of the previous financial year, they can make extra concessional contributions above the general cap limit. So here we'll need to find the total super balance filter. And looking around, we can find total super balance as at 30th of June 2020. So that is year end of the previous financial year. We can then select the filter under 1 million. And similar to before, we can narrow it further by selecting the filter itself. And we're going to apply that to be less than 500K. Now, we also want to select the filter where concessional contributions are currently below the cap to see where members can make extra contributions. So in this case, we can add an additional filter. And looking around, we can find the concessional contributions cap for the current financial year. So we're going to select below cap. And so this will determine those funds that have members of a total super balance less than 500K and are currently below the concessional contribution cap limit. Now, selecting the downward arrow besides any fund, you'll find more information, and you can view and track concessional and non-concessional contribution amounts for all of your members from a single screen. It also displays if the bring forward rule has been triggered. And from this fund alone, I can see the total super balance for the member. So we've got Tony here. So he's got less than 500K as his total super balance. And Simple Fund 360 has already accounted for the 5 years of concessional contributions that can be taken up. And that's by noting the fund's current position and is currently below the cap limit. So definitely an opportunity here that you can bring back to your firm and clients of whether they're able to make any further contributions. Now, another example that we have is annual minimum pension payments. So this is a standard compliance requirement for most pension accounts. And Simple Fund 360 has accounted for this through the pensions filter. So I'm just going to cancel out of my current filters that I have. And on the left-hand side, you'll find the filter called pension status for the current financial year. And we're going to select minimum not met. And so this will filter for those entities that have not met their minimum annual pension payments. And from here, you can select the downward arrow besides any fund. And this will provide an account-specific breakdown of the pension drawdowns for the year, where I can see for this particular member, I have about 750 to be paid to meet the member minimum. So this will help you keep track in meeting your legislative requirements, where you might need to withdraw additional pension payments before 30th of June. And then finally, with Entity View, a great tip is consolidating the information gathered. And on the right-hand side, you have the option to download in an Excel format. And so selecting this will give you a number of options where you can download all member accounts and details, pension balances and drawdowns for pension accounts, as well as contribution-specific information. And you can do the same with entity-specific details. And selecting complete will enable you to download all the information as of below. So definitely will be useful in exporting that data and listing those entities based on the filter selected that might require immediate action. And so the final tab we have is transaction. And so this will provide a quick snapshot across all accounts and the transactions posted within a period. And this will be based on the date as of today, but of course, the transaction date, it can be edited if required. You can see here that this section is actually broken down into 2 subsections, where we have account classification and transaction information. Now, account classification, it provides a snapshot of the balance and the number of entries for each account type. To drill down the accounts, you can tick the checkbox next to the account. And this can be further narrowed down by sub-accounts. And on the right-hand side, you'll find all the entities that have that account type, where the balance for the specific account, it will display from today's date and a year before today's date. Selecting View Entries will enable you to view all the transactions for the account in the entity selected. So practically, an example of when you might use the account classification screen is when you're looking to see how many funds have a certain investment type, such as a particular property, just so that you have your year-end valuations in order. So for example, selecting any particular property, I'll find the balance as of today's date, and all the transactions that relate to that current balance. So just canceling out of my current filters by selecting the X icon. And then we have the transaction information tab. So similar to before, it allows you to drill down the balances using transaction status, create source, and edit it by. So this is where you can check to see how many entities may require further matching, how the transactions are being imported across funds, and the transactions edited by specific users invited to your license. So as an example, selecting BGL bank data will display the number of transactions that have been automatically imported from the BGL bank data service. And then once again, users have the opportunity to download this in a consolidated CSV file. And they can do so by selecting Download Excel on the right-hand side. So selecting this time you've got two options. So balance sheet and all entities. And by selecting balance sheet, you can download a file that will aggregate all the entities in your database into a single balance sheet. Whereas all entities will download a file that will list balances for each entity corresponding to the accounts that you have selected. Now, before closing, I just would like to show you different ways you can access these screens to add a bit of flexibility in your workflow. So one way that you can access the account view screen is by heading to the left-hand toolbar, hovering over reports, and selecting account view. So based on the fund that you have selected, you'll find all the accounts listed for that has been posted within the current financial year. And of course, like before, you can adjust the transaction date. And another way to access the entity view, so you've seen the screen before, but it's right when you log into the software and it's in your entity workflow screen. So on the left-hand side, you'll find all those filters available to you, and this can be expanded if need be. So all you'll need to do is head to the right-hand side and find the icon called Collapse Panel, and selecting that will simply expand all of those filters. So selecting any number of these filters will narrow down the relevant entities on the right-hand side. And as mentioned before, if you have non-SMSF entities, such as companies, trusts, and individuals, everything explained today, it can be applied accordingly with Simple Invest 360. And so with that, we've looked at the Analytical Insights feature, along with some practical tips on how you can use it. Of course, there are a multitude of other ways, and it's definitely worth experimenting to see how you can use a feature to suit you best. And so that concludes the demonstration for today. I do want to thank you for your time, and I hope you found today's session valuable. And with that, I'll be leaving the forum open for any questions. So please feel free to use the Q&A panel, and our team will get back to you shortly.